This episode of The Truth in This Art was brought to you by the generous support of the Gutierrez Memorial Fund. Learn more about their mission and their story at gutierrezmemorialfund.com. Also, this season of The Truth in This Art is supported by the Robert W. Deutsch Foundation. Learn more about their mission and their story at rwdfoundation.org. Well, shaking cats and kittens, Rob Lee here for this month's presenting sponsor, Night Owl Gallery. Night Owl Gallery is an intimate, artist-run exhibition space showcasing the original paintings and fine art prints of Beth Ann Wilson. Also, it features curated goods from local artists and craftsmen. You'll be sure to find one-of-a-kind gifts, handcrafted jewelry, home decor items, along with a few vintage treasures. Located in the rear of 248 South Conklin Street in Highlandtown, across from Sally O's, Night Owl Gallery is a unique space that brings together Wilson's love of the arts, community, and culture. Additionally, Night Owl Gallery hosts an array of arts and crafts workshops throughout the year and participates in community events, many of which are free and open to the public. So in this ever-changing world, safety is their priority. So feel free to join them and hit them up online at www.nightowl.gallery. Tell them Rob Lee sent you. Welcome to Getting to the Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee, and today's guest is an American painter from the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. We have Mr. David Ibata. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man.
See, you notice I put the Mr. on there because I'm looking at your...
That's cool. Yeah, don't worry about it.
No, but you get the Mr. You're the first Mr. on here. You get the full title. If it was Sir, I would give you that as well.
No, don't worry about that.
No Esquire for you. So if you will, I've been around some of your work through stuff at Creative Alliance, stuff at UB Blake. And as I always talk with the folks that look like me, you get the Browns right. That's what matters. So if you will, describe your work and give us that rundown.
Generally speaking, portrait painter. I guess stylistically, I'm always pulling from people like Franz Hals and John Singer Sargent and Diego Velasquez. So yeah, I mean, it's I guess the kind of portrait I've been doing is a very intimate. Looking at people. In this case, a lot of friends that I've been painting. A lot of friends. That's what that show was, UB Blake show. Like over the pandemic, and it kind of as a way to just like think about the friends I have, people I've met. And I think in painting, you sort of honor them. And so that's what the work has comprised of lately. Back in the studio, I'm working on larger paintings, more in-depth portraits, but it's just kind of a way to get, sorry, phone. It's just a way to get, closer to, who that person is, as portrait kind of always has. Because when you're doing a portrait, you're building them from the ground up. And so you're sort of understanding them in a different way, maybe more intimate way.
Sure.
So that's kind of what I've been doing for the past, few years now. This is a portrait of portraiture.
So you've touched on the portraiture, how that's been over the last few years. So let's go back to when the start happened. What was that like, getting into like, hey, I want to take on being a painter as a practice, and how has that practice changed from then to like now?
Back then it was incredibly, I mean, it was hard. It was hard to even start for a while. Cause I had really in the beginning, no real direction, no one to really show me. I went to I always say this is National Gallery, and as a kid, I used to go look at museum, work in museums. And I came across Rembrandt, and that was like the first time I kind of just kept seeing him over and over again. That was the first time I really kind of got it, and I was trying to figure out how to get there. And then so you have to learn how to do, learn anatomy, you have to learn, even symbolism, context of works. I mean, honestly, probably my intro to it was watching movies. Excuse me. I grew up watching like Spielberg movies and, they're great directors. And so if he's like, framing Indiana Jones for close up, it's like that's portraiture, light hitting his face on the side. Or if you watch like old film noir or old like black and white television, in like westerns or something, it's all that. So I really kind of got a sense of maybe dramatic lighting, and I got a sense of what maybe like a frame a single face could do by watching movies, by television, just kind of absorbing that as a kid, before I really like started, really took art seriously as a possible path. So yeah.
So even looking at that, it's interesting that you described it that way. It's the first time I've heard described that way. And maybe it's because I haven't had a lot of conversations in this space, but that makes a lot of sense of like having some inspiration maybe, or some recognition when it comes to that overlap between like early film or old film and just how people viewed things. A very kind of, I hear painterly is a way people kind of approach things sometimes when they're doing the cinematography, when they framing up a shot. And I think because some of these things were like, if you're looking at, let's say Jaws, you're looking at Indiana Jones, those movies are 40, 50 years old at this juncture. And they were probably closer to moving pictures, emphasis on pictures, than what we have being created now is referential to earlier film as opposed to earlier paintings or earlier moving pictures. So now, as I touched on earlier, it's brown people in there, your people, you said like sometimes they're friends and sometimes they're people that have a connection to you. You're seeing them in a different like kind of light. How does your work comment on any social or political issues?
I used to do that a lot. So I did a lot of stuff, a lot of drawings before I really, painted regularly. And so I did a lot of more conceptual portraits and stuff like that. It wasn't the person I knew, or like I would scour Google for interesting faces and then insert my own idea into that person's, because a person's face is a landscape of experiences. So I was looking at the world around me. I was looking at what's happening and just started comments on all sorts of things like, police brutality or prison industrial complex or whatever that I was thinking about. And, I kind of did that for a minute. It was interesting. I got some ideas out, but now sort of looping back around and like actually paint real people who are in those milieu, interesting milieus or whatever. So I had to just kind of work out some ideas by just painting, kind of doing conceptual portraits. But I've been, reaching out to more people, trying to arrange more portrait shoots, so I can really dig into certain topics. I'm going to start a series on police. I interviewed one gentleman who's is U.S. Capitol Police, and he was there during the 6th. So like we had a great conversation. He was a really great guy. So, and I'm just like putting that together. So whoever I can, wrangle into this thing and talk to, that's a way. I mean, that's a way to like really delve into a social thing. Cause before it was like kind of all over the place. I was just thinking of this, but now I want to, I'm really trying to put that together, but, and I shot a bunch of friends, who are really dope, artist friends. And so I'm still doing regular portraits, but, I'm trying to delve more into the social issue stuff as I get along, but just through real people. And a real person brings their whole history and weight to a subject. And then what I usually do is interviews with that person and just talk to them. And as I talk to them, I get a sense of who they are, of their reality. And I try to then insert that, think about that, put that into the portrait when I'm building it. So a lot of it is what I experience of that person too. So.
That feels immersive. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I did a photo shoot this past weekend, and in it during the shoot, it was one part like, and I didn't think it was going to be that because I'm usually on this side of the interview dynamic or what have you. It's like, so tell me more about this. I was like, oh, I'm being interviewed. Oh, this is what this is. I thought you were just taking pictures and I don't say anything. It's like, no, tell me more about it. And I guess getting the sense of who I am in that brief period of time, that was the direction that was being given based in it to best show who I am through the lens that they're operating. So, so do you intend for others to see, and this is a new question, do you intend for others to see and feel what you feel and see in your art? Or in other words, do you want others to get what you're trying to say out of your art? Like, you know, do you know what I mean by that, or is it too vague?
Yeah. No, I mean, you can't really control that. I've found people will bring to the work whatever experience they have. It's something that you can't really control it as much as you may try. Unless you're super direct, you know, like even the cop thing, I told some friends about it, and they're like, some are like, oh, you know, that's, you know, I hate them. And others are like, oh, that's really interesting. You should, you know, and it's like different perspectives. Right. At a certain point, I have to try to remove my ego from it and just present the thing. And hopefully it's painted well so that, you know, you can just forget about that and sink right to the work. But I've never been able to really, you know, make somebody feel whatever. I don't know if you should. I think people, you know, naturally bring their own stuff to whatever is presented. Like, you know, it could be a movie, it could be a song, it could be whatever. I guess nowadays, though, it's different for artists because, like, especially in the entertainment industry, because you get, like, canceled if you say they have the wrong quote opinion. So, right. And which is interesting. So the audience then responding in a way where it's not beyond, you know, voting with your dollar. It's like, I think this voice should be removed from existence kind of thing. It's interesting. It doesn't lean into discourse or like understanding. Nothing's really achieved there. There should be discourse. I mean, if people have an opinion or an idea, they're generally, you know, people go to a show, go to dinner afterwards, whatever. There should be discourse about work. That's great. You know, talking about, I did that in college. I always talk about art, talk about culture and society and stuff like that. You know, so. I think we almost get programmed into some of these things, and we start second guessing things that I feel are more base level. Like, for instance, like you start disbelieving certain things. Like I did a taste. I did a cupping, like a coffee cupping. I love coffee. I drink a lot of coffee. Same here, man. See, you get it. Yeah. And you know, I was doing a cupping and kind of being able to appreciate it, do the smelling and the tasting, all of those different stages. And I'm looking at, you know, someone who's very versed, very knowledgeable of their business. And I'm like, am I tasting what I think I'm tasting as opposed to just tasting it? Because we're looking for that input from the system or whatever it is, because we're now designed for that. Is this good? Do I feel something from this? No, you accept it. Accept that you feel something or you taste something or whatever the thing is, and be able to explain why or what you're getting off of it, but don't look for someone else's input, because then it sullies what you're supposed to get from it, I think. Yeah. I mean, you try to, you know, go into an opening or whatever. I try to, or if I could walk down the street, I go into a business or something, I see something, oh, look at that, let's check that out. I just walk in just like as a newborn baby and then see how the place impacts me or the work impacts me. Yeah. I mean, I try that, you know, I try to remove but then all the, you know, the weight of my experiences and my taste, I guess, or whatever we call it, comes in and, you know, but then, you know, sometimes interacting with a person a certain way can affect how I feel about things. So we all have our biases, you know, and also like with work too, or coffee, sometimes there's room to grow. And so the coffee tasted, you know, maybe a year ago, that same brand has improved or evolved or whatever. So, you know, I don't know, man. And then you change over a year. And so we all evolve and we all see the world in a different perspective after, you know, through time. So for you, what is your most important tool as an artist? And is there something within the studio that you can't live without? Like, I need that in there. And don't be a tool, because some people say a brush. I was like, you're an ass. But like, that's an ass response. More important tool. Maybe not really a tool, but like I went to the studio earlier today and a friend stopped by, and it was hot. And my studio is very Spartan. There's nothing comfortable in it, you know. And kind of by design, so that I'm not going there to hang out. I'm going there to work. But my energy to paint, maybe my energy to actually get work done. So I usually go there, pick up painting, pick a task, and I just go for it. Like it's the tool is because I also have to drive to Georgetown from Oxon Hill, which is like, ugh. And so it's a trek, man. And like, then they got to paint. I'm standing up painting for like, I don't know how many hours. My back starts to hurt. It's like, it's place is just hard. And so my willpower has to, I got to go to David Goggins mindset and like get it done. That's that's the only way I've been able to do all the work there that I've been able to do. It's just willpower. So that might be it, beyond brushes.
No, that's an honest answer. Like, some people joke me because I'll tell them how many podcasts I do. Right? I do 3 different podcasts, and sometimes like I batch record, as I was joking with you the other day about, and I was looking at my schedule for this week. Like, you're the only person I have for today. I was like, I got all day. But like on Friday, I have an interview about a location, and then I have 3 podcast interviews. I'm like, all right. And last Friday was the same thing, and I was doing this kind of check-in with myself. All right, that one went well. Yeah, because you hate to have that bomb situation like that didn't go. That was a shit sandwich in the middle of those 2 great podcasts. you don't want that to happen. So just doing that check-in is like, okay, how are you feeling? Do you need to properly hydrate? Do you need to drink a beer? Do you need to get some coffee? Do you need to burn your nose with coffee?
Oh yeah. I do. I kind of do this thing where I go to the studio. I used to it's funny. It's simple. I used to go to. There's a Starbucks and there's a Safeway down the road from it. Yeah, drivable. And I used to go at a certain point. I go to get coffee or get some from Safeway. I used to go first and then go to the studio. Yeah. Past the studio, go to get something to eat. It would actually break the flow up because then I have to, how early I meant to start. I'm starting later now because I got a sandwich, I got a coffee, and I got to eat that and drink that. Because I think I need that like fuel. Yeah. But no, I just go straight into work, drink some water, and then I'll work till I'm like, okay, I just take a break. And then I'll go get coffee or something because I try to like tell myself, just break because you're getting overwhelmed. In art school, at Atelier, usually there's like, if you're working for a model or something, or whatever, you're doing like a 20-minute, they're usually at the timer and then it's there for like 20 minutes or whatever. And then timer beeps, I just take a little 5-minute break because it's so mentally taxing to do this, to paint half the time when you're really in it. That because you're standing up, painting, trying to figure out, doing like a calculus problem, like color and form, and then your body is feeling. Yeah, you don't think about it. Your brain's like turns off your pain receptors or something. You're just like in it, and then you're done. You're like, oh fuck, I ran a marathon. Yeah, like literally when I'm done painting at night, I'm like a goddamn zombie. I'm like, oh, fuck everything. I gotta drive home too. Like, bullshit. It wears you out. Yeah. It really, even on a good day, I'm just gone. I try to have good days. I try not to leave anything unresolved because if I leave something unresolved, I paint alla prima. So it means if wet and wet. So I'll do it in stages where I'll paint something up wet and wet, I won't leave the studio until it's where it needs to be. Let it dry. Because if I don't, if I leave it unresolved, I'm going to be like, I'm wasting time and I'm wasting money. I'll be really angry. Yeah. So, because next time I go to the studio, I'm like, I should have fucking done that. Mm-hmm. So I try to work up to a level where I'm comfortable, let the paint dry, then come in with another layer if need be. It's like that did happen to me the other night. I'm working on a painting of a friend, and we did a whole shoot from candlelight. And then it's like I gotta put on the first layer, and I gotta figure this out. I'm like, reshape it, and it looks like shit. I gotta go back and work on it. And I cannot leave till it's done. And if I get out of the studio at like 10 p.m. or 12, that's what it's gotta be. Yeah. And you're just exhausted. You gotta just take that, So let's look at the beginning of that process, right? Do you have any, I know for me, over the last year and a half, my morning starts off with either a walk or the gym, and definitely getting either cold brew, because it's always coffee, right? Either cold brew, some latte,
and a buttery croissant, because who doesn't like a buttery croissant? What kind of rituals do you have that kind of help you get into that setup for the day that kind of is like, this is going to be a good day because I was able to get X, Y, and Z done at the beginning of this day?
I put down the croissants for beets. I eat a lot of, I'm trying to eat healthier now.
Okay.
I'm trying to get up and run more. I don't know. I just kind of, wake up, check my emails. I don't really have a set ritual. I guess maybe packing up, stuff, and it gets me in that mode of like, okay, boost you, because that would be really intentional. I don't know. I mean, I try to, maybe eat something healthy in the morning, and if I can get it and run, I'll get it. Especially since summer's on, I'm gonna try to run every day. Just that little routine, because the studio's endurance, so I have to like be in shape and have all this stuff in place. But I don't really have too many rituals, really. I probably just think about, okay, studio day, boom, go get it. And, I'll get to the studio, I'll probably watch in the studio, I'll probably watch something to keep me occupied. Like I'll bring my iPad and I'll put on I had a long run of watching like Star Trek Next Generation off the side. Something just kind of light, while I just work to keep me engaged. Yeah. Recently, I've been listening to more on the Mike Tyson's Hot Boxing podcast. His crazy stories, and that keeps me going. Yeah. And it's pretty simple, really.
You got to put this podcast on that list too.
Yeah, no, man, I know. Well, yeah, I mean, hearing Joey Diaz tell stories of New York in the 70s is just like the fucking craziest thing.
Joey Diaz is ridiculous, by the way.
And he's a, but I mean, like, just story. I mean, or interviews with people just who have lived lives and just like, holy shit. And it keeps my mind focused. Mm-hmm. It's like sort of interesting white noise. And then I can lose a sense of time and just like work out. I was watching The Departed the other day. It's just like, oh yeah.
That's the part when he gets shot in the head.
Yeah. But that's, I don't know. If I have a ritual, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I find myself when you get into those things, like I had the day job, and you need that endurance because you're coding and things like that. And I'll throw on like something that has no lyrics because I'm a lyricist. It's like, oh, what did he say right there? What disrespectful line was that I heard? But it has to be something like classical music, electronic, something that is just going BPMs, what have you. But if I'm doing something slightly different, like I do a movie review podcast out of this. Yeah. So sometimes if it's a movie I've seen a lot, I'm like, all right, let me watch this for like the second time and just have it in the background and start crafting my notes on it. If I'm coming up with like questions for this podcast or what have you, I need to have something in there to focus me in that area that I can like use that different part of my brain, because if it's unoccupied, then it's just like, oh, what would be really great, Rob? You should be doing this though. You should be doing something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much like what, when you got to feel the silence or something. So otherwise, like, I should be doing something that makes me more comfortable right now. And I'm like, I got to quiet that voice. And then David Goggins comes in and it's like, you gotta get it. Fuck that. And so, I would watch, it's funny, for a while, to keep myself motivated, I was like watching like Navy SEAL training. Like there's Bud's Class 234. Yeah. They have a documentary. I think the Discovery Channel did it. Mm-hmm. It's on YouTube. And they show these guys like, getting the lead out. And it's actually, and then the instructors yelling at them. There's only, second place is first loser kind of mentality. Yeah. So I have to like, it kind of fires me up too. So I'm like, you need a trigger to make you want to do this, because it's like, to go in the studio, I'd rather be at home sleeping or rather be at home doing something else. Yeah. But in order to do all the shows I've done or have a career, you have to just keep pushing yourself, especially the way I paint. Like I just have to work all the time. And yeah. So, just motivation.
So that brings me to another question. See, this is how segues work. This shows the hallmark for somebody that didn't get the questions. You kind of already have the guys of how these things going. Maybe I'm just throwing softballs, but how do you usually prepare for an upcoming exhibition?
I used to, in the past, I was like, oh, I got a show. Like, now I'm just like, this is a job, really. Just buckle down. And I mean, especially if I have time to work, I'll just work all the time. This past show, the show at UB Blake, like I was doing that while like finishing the school year through virtually, which is like working 2 jobs, and teaching took my soul out of my chest. And just like this year, it was just hard this year. So I was just doing 2 things at once, and you just work. It's just you got to make the work decent, and then back and forth with people curating whatever. You're like, just you fill out this, fill out that. Like, cool, it's just really just work, and then make sure you have everything on time, whatever they need. So there's like really, I'm at that point. If someone's giving me a show, I'm their I'm the I'm trying to be a good asset, and make so that the production that they're putting on, I'm a quality part of. I'm not like, taking away from anything. Sure. So that's the mindset I get into. Like, okay, you need me to fill this out. Great. I'll do it, so that everything runs smoothly. So then everybody's happy and everybody's cool. That's the way it's kind of way I go about it,
Simple.
Yeah, I'm a simple guy.
I dig it.
I try to be.
So now I have 2 questions left. One's Baltimore related, and the other one is different. No, the other one's not Baltimore related, which is ridiculous. How I came across you was initially through the Bright exhibit from Creative Alliance, and you mentioned UB Blake. And so how does that feel to kind of, have, developing like a bit of a base of people who are becoming more and more aware of you in Baltimore, and speak on your thoughts about Baltimore kind of being in that more DMV area, because there's that weird little rivalry we have here.
I know. I went to the Corcoran and like, Micah, it was like a little soft rivalry. No, it's cool. It's great when people know what you're doing. One guy came up to me and was like telling me they've been following me for a while, and I was like, oh yeah, because I'm on Instagram. I try to work that heavily, even when I delete a lot of stuff.
I saw that.
Yeah. No, I just kind of I pare things down, and I build it back up. Mm-hmm. It's just a wave. But no, I don't know. It's good. It's good when people like know what you're doing, and then they're following you, and it's a good feeling. Yeah. Because you don't feel like you're working in a vacuum. Yeah. When people get what you're saying, even when you're being super subtle, it's good. It's like, I try to put a lot of thought into the stuff I'm doing, especially when I was doing these those more conceptual pieces where I'm thinking about all this other crazy stuff around me. Like my very first solo show was called I See a Darkness. I got the title from the Johnny Cash song. Yeah. And, it was like, I get this crazy talk at the National Gallery of Art. People there hooked it up. And I was basically talking to, the talk got pushed back because of the government shutdown and via Trump. And so you had like food lines of government workers outside and shit. And it's like, what the fuck is happening? The whole Trump presidency was like, what the fuck is happening?
Literally.
But, that was like, I was thinking about all this shit war, we got out of like 20 something years of like war in the Middle East, Afghanistan. We got, living through 9/11, all this stuff. And then like, what is America really? Was it really like, all this stuff? So I put all that stuff into that show. Yeah. And I was hoping people got it. I don't know if I was super successful, but like, I've had to learn how to refine my ideas, presenting them. Because the artist talk was like all the darkness I'd seen and just from police to, we're watching people get murdered every day. Yeah. Like straight up, like toward the end of maybe it was the end of Obama's presidency, when the police shootings sort of ramped up and leading to Floyd and everything, was like, that was just like a regular thing, even before it became like everybody was like in vogue for people to like be protesters. Like I heard about that as a kid, like all the time.
I had a comment on it in one of my podcasts, and it was more of me on a rant. I was like, I'm just able to see people that look like me get shot cinematically, and it's fine, and we can see it on the news, and that's not traumatizing at all, right?
Yeah. I realized I had to really, that's what, I See Darkness, like I was seeing this shit Well, and then, the confusion of film and then, like just murder, crime, death, and music too. It's like just hitting you all the time. Mm-hmm. And what are we becoming through that? The effects of that violence on us. Like, honestly, it's fucked up. When Floyd died, I was so used to it. I just like, and then it took off because everybody's at home during the pandemic and they got to really internalize it. I seen that shit. That kind of thing. Cops like, pinning somebody down. Like I saw that like happen to other people, via somebody's camera. So it wasn't like, oh, another one, and you just try to block it out.
When we had, I was doing a different podcast and, we were just recording and me and my co-host, we both got the news alert about Freddie Gray locally. Yeah. Yeah. And we both had the kind of same response, like, oh, that's nothing new. And then seeing kind of ultimately what it turned into, kind of this precipice of some of this degree of awareness around it. And, I think that is one of the things that maybe even, because kind of what you were touching on earlier, where you take into account what your subject is for your portraits, right? It's almost like taking into account what the artist is, like looking at it like, this is coming from your perspective. Like you're seeing these things and you have your viewpoint on it. And it must be a factor in it, like this is why I'm choosing to go in this direction. This is why I'm choosing to have this subject with maybe this lighting.
And even like the cop I interviewed yesterday, man, I never thought I'd get to the point where I could do that. Cause I grew up like terrified. I used to skate, Freedom Plaza, Pulaski down in DC, and like, the park police would come up on horseback and motorcycles would chase you.
Just not cool.
These motherfuckers were dangerous. Like, and so I remember that growing up a kid hating police. And then as I got older, I've encountered good cops, terrible cops. Like I've been very lucky even getting pulled over. Mm-hmm. Even when they try to run my license for like half an hour, and it takes like 5 minutes to see if I have any felonies. I've been very lucky and survived, those encounters. But I remember seeing in Southeast down here, South Capitol Street, a kid, I was driving and this goes back to that artist song. I did darkness. So I did it in the NGA where it's like a very more like crowd, like, oh my God, Yeah. And this kid was literally, I was doing South Capitol Street toward DC from Maryland. Everybody kind of stopped. Everybody was like looking, like spectating something. I was like, what's going on? I saw a cop car sort of speeding around this one neighborhood. Like they're definitely hunting for somebody. Yeah. I saw a kid running for his life like this. His clothes were just tattered. Wow. Like a runaway slave. It was that kind of imagery. Wow. And he was just running. And people were saying like, yo, man, give it up. Give it up. I saw some old dude saying that. And the cops were just like, they was like, oh shit, there he is. Yeah. And I remember that scene and I was just like, what the fuck did I just witness? Yeah. And they were just, it wasn't my really rehabilitation. It was just about, we're going to catch our prey. Yeah. And you never want to be on the other side of that. I got yeah, go ahead. Sorry. I got the response, like, you touched on just some of the earlier imagery being movies and things like that. Mine's always go to like Do the Right Thing. And it's like, I always put it this way. I'm a Radio Raheem dude. I'm 6'4", like 300 pounds. So it's like, I'm going out. If there's any like, he's moving too fast. It's like, shit, I'm in the back of a van, not breathing. And this is what a reality is. And you don't want that to be the case, but it's like, let's be real though. Yeah. Well, I had to, I'll speak to what I'm going to do, and I'll segue back to what you just said, because I think about that all the time, too. The cop I interviewed yesterday, who the Capitol Police officer, said that the people in the crowd had, like, Blue Lives Matter flags on them, and they were beating the cops with those flags. That was the irony of that shit. Yes. It was like, what the fuck? These are the same motherfuckers are like, pro police, pro this, and they want to kill these cops who are trying to defend the Capitol. Yeah. We're really trying to like hold the line. I was like, oh, nothing makes sense. And by the same token, I saw, excuse me, during the footage of the protesting outside the White House, a video of a white girl screaming like, because a lot of like white kids came down, they needed something to do, and they're like, oh my God, I feel so bad about this stuff. I'm guilty and shit. Like I saw a white girl screaming Black Lives Matter at a black cop holding the line, and I was just like, you know, I mean, a lot of my friends are all just like, defund this. And I was like, well, let's have a conversation about this because, you know, like that's a black cop. That's another layer of this shit.
Yes.
You know, black people who have, you know, there's the double conscience of it all. Like, and I wonder about it. Like, I wonder, what is it? What do you feel like? What is that really like for you? What have you seen? What have you heard? And then having a white person yell Black Lives Matter to you must fuck you up, kind of. You know, I was watching, I was like, how the fuck does that, what the hell?
It's like this equation doesn't work.
It's like seeing like white kids. I would see like white kids and protesters have like Black Lives Matter signs and shirts, but they couldn't look you in the eye. Like I'm 6'3". Yeah. You know, I'm like, and they look, you know, like, you know, oh my God, I'm scared. And I was like, fuck off then. You know, so I was feeling all this shit. I was like, this just, it's so complicated.
Yes.
It's so, you know, it's so like, what do you really feel? You know, what do you really think? What do you really, you know, and portraiture really just delves right in there. But to circle back to the talk, all that stuff I was seeing before, and then, you know, the darkness was like, where are we headed? And then I guess the ultimate expression of that was January 6th, where a bunch of people stormed the United States Capitol, which I thought was secure. Because last time I went there, I saw dudes with like fucking slow dudes like M4s ready. Yeah. I was like, oh, they'll handle it. But nope. You know, it's like, there was a painting I thought about when that was happening. Thomas Cole, Course of Empire. He did a series of 5 paintings in the 19th century about the rise and fall of Rome. And the second last painting is called The Destruction. It's like after the middle painting, the zenith is the consummation of empire, when Julius Caesar enters Rome on this huge procession after his campaign in Gaul. He's like crossed the Rubicon and conquered all these motherfuckers. Everybody's celebrating. The next one is like all the people he was inspired before. All the kids grew up and they became savages, and you know the tribes came in and tore shit. It was just complete chaos. Right. That's what the 6 looked like to me. I was like, oh shit, you know, because after seeing like them in Michigan at the State House and like dudes in there yelling Heil Hitler, holding an AK, I'm like, you see what I'm saying? The fucking what the fuck? And being allowed to be in that spot and without getting murked like that. I'm like, how do you carry a gun into a state house? Yeah. You know, I mean, let a nigga sell cigarettes and like he gets tackled. Like, deprived of air, choked out the whole gamut. And it's like, you fuckers have gone into governmental buildings, stole governmental property on camera, smiling at it, and it's fine. Yeah. It's like, I'll be protected. And I've like, because like, again, the nature of the other podcast I cover, it was one where it was a guy he was getting a haircut and he was bragging about it. It's like, you got away, you still want the street cred, you silly bastard. They were pinging people's phones. Actually, if you were near there, I heard about this story on local news. Like, if you were near the Capitol in the 6th, they were like, I think they were tapping in some like phone towers. Some woman who happened to be walking her kid by that day got a visit from the FBI because she was like nearby. Yeah. So I'm like, yo, why are you? They're like, you're on camera. Do you have a Parler account? You know, I mean, the memes were fire though, straight up coming from the 6th. Like the people climbing the wall, like they had the Mario music. The one, like, did you see the one with the guy that had the it's the one black guy, and as the people are coming in, he's holding like the can of like the Twisted Iced Tea. That's really funny. But it's terrible. But even then, like, I saw after interviews afterwards, there were like people of like all persuasions, races there. You know, there was a guy gays for Trump. I saw a Vietnamese woman, you know, there I saw some black people there. And like the shit it was, I mean, but that even the Proud Boys, it's like the dude, Enrique, whatever, you know, is brown, and he got arrested for bringing in weapons to DC. And, you know, it was like, it's complicated. Yeah. And the complication is what I'm fascinated about, honestly, about what we project and then what we, how we act and how we live and how we want to live and how we want to restructure the society. People that believe that, you know, I find that endlessly fascinating. And, you know, and then the people who have to really try to keep shit in order. Yeah. Whether it's, you know, police or whether it's officials or whatever. And then being in DC's never really been more exciting, honestly. And but then also the historical stuff is like, this is where so-and-so walked. This is where, like, even where I live, Oxon Hill, I lived down the road from a plantation, Oxon Hill Manor, so all the stuff that built up was like, oh yeah,
Yeah. It's like, it's like what the clip said. The place where I'm making figures at is the same place used to hang niggas at.
Yeah, exactly. There was I think it was called Subaria, the plantation, and it was a 14-year-old girl who was tried 4 times because she poisoned her master's family and they hung her. After the 4th time, I was like, took those motherfuckers out. Yeah, I'm like, why not? It's gangster, man. Like, what?
Enjoy.
Like, yeah, it's some Django shit. Like, because we did, like, I'm having a studio in Georgetown. Like, they're finding slave shackles in people's basements, years ago. Like, it wasn't. Let's not fuck around and think like this is all, this is all cute and cool. It's like,
I mean, it was a place that I worked at, and I had to go on campus all the time, and they had like this. It wasn't a monument, but it was like some type of beacon that illustrated that this is where the slaves' quarters was at. I was like, I don't know if I like walking by this every day. And then it was that thing where, people have been making these face value attempts or appeasements. Let's call them appeasements. Like, let's add Juneteenth as a holiday. Let's deal with our history of slavery. I was just like, don't start census bureauing me. Like, well, we can't tell how many slaves the name of this school is named after, the person that the school is named after had, but we know he had at least one. I was like, nah, try again. You can't have one. It doesn't work that way. Not. Well,
it's like George Washington. When people find out George Washington was a slave owner, it's like, and yeah, man, it's like it's funny. There's John Adams miniseries on HBO. It's really great, and he and Abigail get to the White House. I was like, they're coming in a horsebound carriage and everything. They see all the slaves building the grounds of the White House. It's like, ooh. Yeah, and then just the moment of guilt, and the slaves look at them. Abigail looks at one woman, and it's just like, I could have been this person, or this person could have been me, kind of moment. Right. And it's just like, yeah, let's not forget, man. And but then also, like, there's plenty of people of color, in the canon of painting and art who've been painted. Yeah, back to like 14th century, like we've always been there. Like, every time they paint Jesus in the painting, there's like, some dark skinned dude over here. It's like it's, in a secondary role because God's, Jesus is white, of course, and in the Middle East. I
started to say Julius Christ in the background, but I had to get
Julius. Well, the first painting I ever saw as a kid, I always think to a church. It's called like Ebenezer in like Eastern Market. Yeah. The old black, like Methodist church. Yeah. There's a painting of Jesus on, above the choir and everything. And it's a white dude. It's like with the blue and the red robe. I'm like, but he's from the Middle East, is right.
Not even a tan.
Palestine.
I think, all right, then.
Like, it's some white dude with brown hair, and it's like, I was like, oh, that's a painting. Like, that's confusion. You have to untangle as a kid. That's growing up. About how we present ourselves in the messaging. Yeah. He can't be some regular dude, who's brown
No, absolutely not. Can't be de facto brown. You can't be mid-tier brown. You have to be one extreme, and the extreme is chosen as happens to be a white dude.
And then there's a black dude on the side giving them some whatever, some gift. Some I was like, I mean, life is complicated. I think people are trying to deconstruct things now. I mean, they have been. Mm-hmm. But now Tulsa's all the rage, Oh, did you know there was a riot there? Like, yeah, motherfucker. Like,
I mean, they had 2 series on HBO that talked about that. Yeah. One did really good at it. The other one I have thoughts on, and we'll shave that.
Which one do you have thoughts on? Like, I'm curious.
Lovecraft Country. I have thoughts on that one.
Yeah, well, they put it at night. I mean, I think it did happen like in the evening. But it was. Did it? I mean, I'm even the history of like when it happened to me, because like the Watchmen, that was more cinematic.
Yeah.
And that was, and it felt. I was thinking more like Rosewood too.
Yes.
That was.
Don't get me started, man. I do a movie review podcast. I'll invite you on that one, man. We got one.
We got to talk more, man. I'm big on. I love movies, man. No, please. Yeah. What was your thought on both of those? I'm just curious.
I liked Watchmen a lot, and mostly because I like their angle with it. Damon was not fucking around with that. I don't think he's like, I don't care about your white feelings. And I like the fact that like white fanboys that were like sucking Alan Moore had to like cop with it. It's like, I don't believe this woman, this black fuck is good though. I felt like a lot of that was going on, which made me really happy. As far as Lovecraft Country, overall, I think it was good. I think it was a good direction. It was certain things that the story that they were telling, because we were reading the book concurrently, it was like, some interesting choices here, that some changes, some omissions, and it was just things that they created that didn't really make sense for what they were doing. Like, how do you walk through fire with a book?
Like you shouldn't like sprint when there's a portal closing. Just like, yo, just take off, like run.
It was just things that just didn't work in that kind of way for me, and it was for the motherfucker scenes. It was kind of like a lot of that was happening. Yeah,
it was too like on the nose. That's the subtlety is art form. Like the fact that they made like Watchmen basically made the most powerful being in the universe a black dude, where he was a white dude, a white Jew who became a black dude later on, transformed himself, and then he like fucking made his own planet. You know, like it was just subtleties there. It was. I mean, I don't know if either show was really ended well. You know, they had moments like the first episode of Lovecraft Country when they went to the Sundown joint, where they went to the cafe. That was like they got chased out, and Smollett's sister was like, "Get the fuck out! We gotta get the fuck out of now!" Because they burnt the old place down. It was black business. They repainted it, right? And like, dude was like, "Yo, we belong here. We eat here."
It's in the Green Book.
And I was the whole time I was like, "Get the fuck out of it!" You know.
At minimum, they're gonna spit in your food. At minimum,
they're gonna spit in your food. You know, call you another word for nigga, and like, you know. So then they got to see they're in the woods. Cop car pulls up, you know, like, and then, you know, dude's trying to like got smart. I'm like, this ain't the nigga you get smart with. This is the motherfucker that will hang you tonight, son.
Yes.
And then made him, you know, if you speed, we're going, I gotta pull you over and essentially kill you. Yeah. And you got to get out of here by sundown. I mean, the fact that America had sundown towns and counties. Yeah. And I think maybe, if I'm not mistaken, Oregon might have been at sundown state.
Oh, wow.
You know, I think it was found as an all white state. Yeah. Like, you know, it's like, hell, parts of Maryland, I don't know, fucking go to at night. You know, it's reckoning with that. And right now it's in vogue, but it's like, it's always been there. Yeah. And it still is there. People still get murdered. Like, people still get hassled. You know, Karens come out of nowhere and try to say that, you know, that kid selling water deserves a cop's call.
Or even the thing back in, I think it was like South Carolina. I believe this is around like maybe when Bree Newsom took like the flag down and all of that stuff there. Yeah. And it was just like, you people don't know that the folks that drive around down here are driving on streets that are named after slave masters. So let's act in accordance.
Across the bridge in Old Town Alexandria, they had I was driving around one time and I saw like a statue I'd passed before. I just didn't even think about it. It was a light. It was like dedicated to the heroes of the Confederacy. Shit, they just took it down and went after the Floyd stuff. I'm like, that was there all my life.
Right.
And then further down the road, there's Jefferson Davis Highway. You named a highway after the motherfucker that got to feel like, why would you, like, what's the, you know what I'm saying? This is Old Town. Yeah. This is nice, you know, it's cool. Like, but no, here's this guy's name. It's like, fuck y'all, you know, and it's what the Confederacy was. I mean, it was a mess.
Yeah.
But then again, like, do you destroy those statues? I mean, they were made in context of intimidation, but would it not be better to learn fully, have a rounded view? So some people take that view. You know, some people in Richmond, they tagged up Lee's statue.
Yeah.
But he's a historical figure. I think he went to school with Grant. These motherfuckers knew each other. That's how.
You can only imagine how many bad jokes I've had about what my name is.
Oh God!
Yeah, and I'm a junior, so my dad got the brunt of it. He's like, I was born in the 50s. We dealt with some bullshit. I have to hear these Robert E. Lee jokes. But in that, this is definitely going into a great conversation. I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up into shameless plugs and all of that stuff. If your artwork was a brand, what would be its slogan?
Oh shit!
Boom. If you say just do it, I'm going to turn everything off. Especially what you said about Oregon, right?
Brand. I mean, it was said about Franz Hals. I saw in a documentary about the famous Dutch painter. You know, he portrayed an intimate realism. Mm-hmm. That's what, you know, the show is like, intimate realness. But maybe that, because I'm really, I mean, look, the good, bad, and the ugly. I'm like interested in people. I think through talking to people who are, you know, I mentioned Mike Tyson's podcast, right? Yeah. Mike Tyson will break down the toughest dude you think. Mike Tyson will sit there and, like, you know, he'll question him. Yeah. Because everybody knows Mike Tyson's been through hell and back. Man. Yeah. This motherfucker's been through everything. And he's been dark skinned. Like, I mean, it's just like he's been through it. So no one, you can't really, and Mike Tyson asks you, what do you really feel that way? You know, like a little boosty or something. It's like, it's coming from a real honest place. Yeah. And through that honesty, there's a catharsis. Even someone who's an awful person or whatever mm-hmm. has a perspective. That person was a kid too. I want to see if I can, like, who are you really? What made you get this way or whatever? There was a guy, I forget what state, black dude actually. He was a photographer. He would photograph a lot of Proud Boys. I realized just talk to them. Yeah, you know, they'd have conversations. That's like, instead of yelling at people sometimes, like, oh, fuck you. It's like, if you can really talk to them and get in their head and really find out where they're coming from. Yeah, that's you know. There's something really amazing there. And I'll finish with this. Daryl Davis, I think his name is. You know his story, man. Like mm-hmm. he brought people out of the Klan by just, because I've never met a black person, and he would just talk to him. I saw his interview on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I was like, holy shit. You know, he was amazing dude. He got protested by Antifa actually at a talk. That's how fucked up crazy the world is.
I saw his documentary or what have you, and I had that initial. It was a documentary. I think it was on Netflix, and my partner, she was just like, "Yeah, watch this," and she was like, "I'm not going to say anything." She's like, I just want to get what your response is. And my initial take was, fuck is this dude? Because I saw, because he reminded me of he looks a lot like my college biology teacher, same perm, the whole situation. They look like they could be brothers. And I'm starting to look at it, and then somehow it went full circle. He got me on his side as far as what the intent is. His approach to it, maybe I would choose something different. Maybe I would, but I'm not in that spot. But seeing how some people react, and I'll leave before we get to Shane's plugs on this, that I think kind of what you were touching on, like that discourse thing of people being able to take those images with, you know, the Proud Boys and all of that different stuff to lead into, like, what is your issue? What is the thing? Give me the rundown or what have you. I think it's a version of censorship that we don't want to be able to talk to people of that maybe from a position that we disagree with, or that's an unsavory position. It's very similar to this thing that Patrice O'Neal would throw out there. And I fucking love Patrice O'Neal. And
Patrice, yeah. And
he was just like, just because you have, like, it could be what is it? Who Bill O'Reilly, or you could have what is his name?
Rush Limbaugh or something.
But I'm thinking of a black dude or what have you, Al Sharpton. It's like you can have different ends of the spectrum that have a message that, because you may not fuck with that end of the spectrum, you would completely ignore it, but it's some validity in what they're saying. Yeah. Like, just because it's the messenger doesn't mean it's like, oh yeah, I'm a shit in the bed, but it's like you might get something out of it that's worth you hearing.
I mean, look, I've listened to a bit more as I've gone along conservative points of view, because, like, I've had friends who, I was like listening to probably more liberal points of view for a long time, and then, like, I went to listen to more conservative point of view. Both halves are saying, like, roughly versions, not the same thing, just coming from their perspective of how they think things should be, but there's validity in different points. Mm-hmm. And you know, like I've run into people who look like that person I would never get along, and then we end up having a great conversation.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. And so I had to be open to that, you know, coming from wherever. And sometimes people just like come up and tell me their stories. I'm like, oh, that's amazing, man. I had amazing conversations that way. So you're right. You just everybody's got a point of view. Now, some people may be trying to incite things. That's why I take issue.
Yes.
But if it's about honest conversation, it's about really digging into an issue, and you may have your opinion about it or whatever. That's, you know, let's talk about this. You know, I may be wrong. I may be my positions, whatever. But like, let's have a conversation about this and really look at it for real. And then, you know, whatever. And society will go whatever way it wants to go, ultimately. But there has to be discourse.
Yes,
there has to be. You know, I mean, look. MLK, we all love him, but like, you know, he had some flings. You know, he wasn't the man who was getting wiretapped by JFK.
Yeah,
or not JFK, but Hoover. Yeah, you know, he wasn't the super virtuous man, but he's also the same dude who was like this amazing. I mean, it seems like a paradox.
Yeah,
it's like he's still. That's a complicated life and people are.
I think that's the thing. We want things to be very, very neat instead of it can be this and that. That's the thing that I like to live in. It can be this and that. Like, this person can be a complete piece of shit, but also he did all of these things. He did all of these other things that makes it more murkier. And we like to see things in a very binary way, despite its shades of gray. See that color thing I did right there? Painting. Boom.
You're right. It's really all shades of gray. It's really all like, and I've had experiences where, you know, I can tell you later, like that just didn't make any sense. And I still think about it. I'm like, but it's all shades of gray.
Yeah.
People, I mean, even this art thing, I've gotten help from people that you wouldn't even never think about, like, or wouldn't even suspect. And like, oh, wow. You know, life is more complicated than I ever thought it would be. Nothing is simple. No. Nothing's cut and dry. And in a way, my buddy up there in Baltimore, Jermaine Bell, he said something about how the friction from a complication produces genius. Because when you're in those murky waters, you have to like really process things and really think about them and really delve into them. And it actually makes you, I say, smarter, but more, you know, intellectually able to handle these paradoxes or what have you. You know, I'm paraphrasing, of course. Yeah, man, it's all great.
Yeah, one of my favorite colors, if not my favorite. So with that, we've gotten everything out there. People are going to take something out of this podcast, but shameless plugs. Where can you find your social media, website, all that good stuff?
Social media, it's my last name, Ibata _ on Instagram. It's probably the most active. Website, just davidribata.com. Pretty simple. And yeah, man, I'm around DC, Maryland. Southern Maryland.
All right.
Mostly DC though. No, that you guys are far. That's a far drive.
Man, all right, going to Georgetown, I say. But thank you so much. This has been great. This has been it's been one of the deeper ones that we were able to get into, delving into an actual conversation with a guest. And this has been great. So thank you so much. So for Mr. David Ibata, I am Rob Lee, saying it does art in and around, and literally around. He said it's so far away. Kind of Baltimore, but it's all in and around Baltimore. You just got to look for it.